Hello, this is Mark, and this is the second video in the series on love. There's 4 videos in total. If you haven't watched video number 1, really recommend you watch that first. The stuff that we're going to be talking about will make a lot more sense. And then watch video 3 and 4 once you've watched this video. So this is video number 2. So what we're really talking about in this video is about sending love to others. And just a very brief recap, but love can be sent to others, it can be received, and it can be brought down. So we're looking at the different ways that love, which is an energy, can travel. And again, just a quick recap from video number 1, there's 2 kinds of energies. There's unconditional love, which is the highest form of love, and then there is love, which quite often has an emotional component. So when we're talking about sending love to others, there's really 2 distinctions to be drawn here. Okay. First, we're going to look at intentionally sending love to others, and then we're going to look at loving others. So the intentional side, the intellectual side, that generally involves the mind or the brain, whereas the spontaneous loving side is the heart. So we're going to look at the intellectual side of love first. And because there's 2 energies, we're going to treat them separately because there's slightly different ways that they work. So the first one we're going to look at is unconditional love and how you intentionally send unconditional love to another person. Now, unconditional love is channeled, so it's really important to use the word channel rather than the word send when referring to unconditional love. And it's really simple. Thoughts are so powerful and intention is really, really powerful. So you would simply say, I channel unconditional love to, and the person's name. And you would say that in your mind. Channeling of unconditional love, because it works with certain energy centers and chakras in you, can only be done between 6 a.m. in the morning and 10 p.m. at night. So you can't actually channel unconditional love after 10 p.m. until 6 a.m. in the morning. And that's really important to know. When you channel unconditional love, the clue is in the name. It's not coming from you. You're not sending any unconditional love that you have in yourself to the other person. You're opening a channel, which is why it can only be done during these times, to allow the unconditional love to come through you, through the causal chakra, which we discussed in the previous video, through energy meridians. And energy meridians are a bit like wires in an electrical system. They allow energy to flow, but the meridians allow love to flow among other energies because they're neutral channels. So by intention, in other words, invoking the intention through the words in your mind, I channel unconditional love to this person or to this group of people. The unconditional love comes from its source through your causal chakra, through the energy meridians, and it splits just above the heart and goes down your arms and out of your palms. So if you imagine the statue of Jesus with his hands outstretched, there's a clue there because he is, if you like, the ambassador of love. The unconditional love energy actually emanates from your palm. So it's coming in through here, splitting down here and coming out. And so in order to do it, you need to make sure your hands are open. If your hands are closed in a fist or your hands are cupped together or like this, it won't be able to leave your palms. Your palms have to be facing out, so they could be resting on your lap facing up, they could be just held out, whatever's comfortable. But if you have your hands pointing down, say resting on your knees, then the energy won't escape, it will go into your body and it won't actually flow from them at all. So you need the palms open, that's really important. And it's as simple as that. Don't do any visualization. The moment you start visualizing, you're just using your mind and you're blocking anything from actually happening. And you want to ideally have your eyes closed. So this is definitely not something to do while you're driving or anything. Give it the time and respect that it deserves. So sitting peacefully with your eyes closed, your palms open, not visualizing, you just simply say the words and hold the intention. Okay? Now, in the first video we talked about the importance of the spirit, and you can actually send unconditional love to someone's spirit. And that would be exactly the same, except you intend it to go to their spirit. So I channel unconditional love to this person's spirit, or that group of people's spirits. Okay? The rest of the process is the same times and everything. But here's the key. Unconditional love is unconditional, and in order to channel unconditional love, so you must use the words, I channel unconditional love to their spirit, or I channel unconditional love to them. In order to channel unconditional love, you need to be unconditional, and that means being very, very neutral. And the best way of explaining this is not being attached to the outcome. It's the same when you're doing healing. If you really want to heal the person, you'll block it. If you really worry about whether it's going to work, you block it. If you're excited about what you're doing, you block it. If you're in your ego, oh, look how great I am, I'm healing, or look how great I am, I'm sending unconditional love, then you definitely block it. You need to be completely unconditional. And that is a state of complete neutrality. And that comes with practice, especially if you do a lot of meditation. But even if you've never meditated before, and by the way, when you're channeling unconditional love, it is not meditation. If you go into the meditative state, then you won't be able to do the channeling. They're two different things. But even if you've never meditated, there's some really good advice, and there's lots of information on the website for free, and videos and guided meditations about learning what are referred to as the virtues. And the virtues are humility, gratitude, respect, non-judgment, compassion, and unconditional love. And these are qualities that if you develop them, the last one being unconditional love, that you become much more unconditional, much more neutral, much more able to work with these amazing energies. But there's a practical exercise you can do. So right now, if you think about the person you love the most, okay, just get them to mind. And now think about the person that you dislike the most. Right? It's not a nice place to go, but just go with me for a moment on this. So it might be someone that's upset you, someone that's hurt you, someone that has offended you, or that you just don't get on with. Think about them. Send them love. And when you can send the person you dislike the most the same intensity and genuine amount of love as you can send the person you love the most, then you're learning how to be unconditional. Because that's what unconditional love is. It puts no conditions on it. If you can love someone who has hurt you as much as you can love someone that loves you, then you're really starting to be that neutral state. And so that's a nice way of thinking about it and practicing. You don't have to do this, it's just a suggestion, but that's one way of learning how to be more unconditional. It's easy to love the ones you love, but even then, that's not necessarily unconditional love, because quite often you love them because of who they are, and the condition of your love is who they are. Okay? So it's something to practice, and you might not, you're not going to notice when you're channeling, necessarily when you're channeling unconditional love. Just sit back and enjoy. Don't even look for any experience. Just have the intentions and sit in the stillness. If you notice stuff, great. If you don't notice stuff, great. Because all the while you're intending to send love, you're developing your ability to love. Okay? So now we talk about sending love. And again, this is a deliberate sending of love. Watch the video to the end. That's when we're going to talk about what happens when you fall in love and love someone, which is the spontaneous form of love. But here we're talking about consciously choosing to send love to another person or to a group of people. So when you send love, unlike channeling unconditional love, which brings it through you, not from you, when you send love, you're sending it from you, from the love that is stored in your heart center. It's directed by your mind because it is an intellectual choice. And your mind is not this thing in your head. It's part of your aura. It's actually in front of you. And because you direct the love from deep inside you, inside the heart center to come out, then as it passes through your aura detects it. And one of the beautiful things that happens is as it passes through the 5th and 6th layers of your aura, which is the emotional and mental parts of your aura, you register the love and you trigger your emotional the emotional parts of your system to release emotions. Those emotions cascade down and eventually go into your heart and into your soul and nourish your soul and produce joy. So there is great joy and nourishment to be had for your soul from the sending of love to other people. And if that isn't good enough reason, then I don't know what is. So when you send love to people, you cause a cascade of emotions that leads to you being filled with joy and feeling really, really good. Okay? Just as with channeling unconditional love, it starts with an intention. So you would sit with your eyes closed as before, you would not visualize, you would avoid visualization, you would try and be as still and as neutral as possible. But it's okay to feel emotions when you're doing love. And you would have the words in your mind, I send love to this person, or I send love to this group of people, or I send love to the planet. And when you do that, it's the words set up the intention, and it's the intention that drives the process. So in terms of time for both of these, if you really want to kind of be effective, then you want to be sitting and doing this for about 10 minutes, whether it's channeling unconditional love or sending love. And so in that time you might say the words at the start, and then maybe every few minutes, whenever you feel that you just need to refocus, but keeping it really gentle, keeping it really soft and neutral. Okay? You recall again that we talked about the importance of having love in someone's spirit. You can actually intend to send love to someone's spirit, which is one of the most amazing gifts you could ever give someone. So in this case, it comes out of your heart center, driven by your mind, but instead of going to the other person, which generally goes to their soul, it will go to their spirit. Okay? Now there's a really, really important thing to understand about this. If you want love to go to someone's spirit, it has to be the highest form of love. Okay? So there's all kinds of love, because love is often coloured by the emotions that you have for that person. So it's only the most passionate or compassionate love that will enter into another person's spirit. And I need to be really clear here. When I say passion, I do not mean lust. There is no love in lust. Lust is a purely mind thing. It's the mind's desire for the other person to conquer, to own, to control. So lust is quite a negative thing. And it's very emotive, it drives you. But you can have passionate love. In other words, think about the love that a mum has for a newborn baby, or you have for your lover, that is nothing to do with lust and that side of things. So passionate love, in other words, love that has a lot of energy behind it, or compassion, which is one of the highest forms of love, those loves, that energy of love will enter into someone's spirit. If you send love to someone's spirit and it doesn't have the right qualities, it will still reach the other person. It just won't go into their spirit. They'll still benefit from it. You'll still benefit from sending it. Okay? So that's the intentional sending of unconditional love, which is done by channeling, and the intentional sending of love. The final part in the talking about the ways that love go from you to another person is the part that most people will probably hopefully have experienced or want to experience, and that is when you love someone. Okay, so this is spontaneous, it's not premeditated, there's no intellectual part to this, it is the heart that is driving this. Okay, so there's a really important thing to understand. So as I said in the first video, your spirit is your vehicle of love. It's where your passion comes from. It's where love is directed from. It's the orchestrator of love. It's the repository, the pure and the most refined repository of love within you. The soul is the story of who you are over many lifetimes. It's the collection of your experiences. It's what makes you unique compared to everyone else. Whereas spirit is neutral. One person's spirit is the same as another person's spirit at the start of their journey. They may have different love levels and things like this, and if someone's enlightened, then the qualities of their spirit have shifted quite significantly. But spirit is fundamentally the same for everyone. Soul although everyone starts in the same place, soul is the record of your personal evolution towards being more loving. Okay, it's really nice to consider. So your soul craves love. It wants to be surrounded by love. It wants to learn from love, but your soul is what makes you unique. And when you fall in love with someone, it's your spirit falling in love with their soul. And when someone loves you, it's their spirit loving your soul, because your soul is unique. It respects, it admires, it loves the different qualities that make you you, and that's your soul. Okay? So when you love someone, it comes from your heart, your actual physical heart, because your physical heart has an awareness, a consciousness. It's not the same as your mind or anything like that, but it has a consciousness. And your heart, if there's someone special in your life, now it might be a relative, it might be a lover, it might be a friend, it doesn't matter what the nature of that love is, your heart's consciousness keeps like a record, a model of them. It's not a perfect record, it doesn't represent everything, it represents your ideas about that person, your experiences of that person, your memories, but kind of mishmashed into a model. So it's the representation of them that sits in the consciousness of your heart. And if you see a photo of them, or you think about meeting up with them, or you hear their voice in a voice message or anything like that, that triggers you to think about them, if you're not in your head at the time and you're in a loving mood, which means that your consciousness is on your heart, and again we talk a lot about consciousness and things like this in the books, especially book number 3, which is yet to be published. But basically, when you're in a loving place and you reference that person, your heart's consciousness focuses on that model of them, okay? And it falls in love with them. But it's an internal love. It doesn't leave you. It's the intimate relationship your heart consciousness has with the model of them. So that's a very personal thing. But that romance, it may not be romance, it may be the love you have for your sister, or the love you have for your mother, or your child, or your best friend, or it might be your lover. But that love, the intensity of that, triggers a cascade of emotions based on how you feel about that person. So if it's platonic, then you get all of that. If it's romantic, you get all of those emotions. If it's friendship, you get all of these things. But it's your emotions about that person. And you start to experience these emotions, and because they're positive, you are uplifted by the joy that that evokes within your soul, because all emotions eventually end up in your heart and release the energy of joy, which your soul thrives on. And the blood that passes through your heart carries the energy of joy that comes from those emotions throughout your entire system. Okay, so it's a pretty cool thing. Your spirit notices your heart's consciousness focusing on this model of this person and all this love that it's pouring out to it. And your spirit is the reaching out part of you. So it reaches out to the real person, not the model, but the person. Okay? And so your spirit directs love to that person. It's driven by your spirit. Okay? Now, because I talked about, in the previous video, I talked about that humanity's relationship with love has evolved. In recent times, in the past, that love would have come from whatever love you had inside your heart center, which would have meant that you could only love someone if you had love to love with. But humanity has shifted, and now anytime this loving someone happens, your heart, your spirit acts like a portal for love, so it comes through you from the source. So you're not depleting yourself. Even if you didn't have any love in your heart center, you can still love someone. And that's beautiful. Think about it. That means that everyone is capable of loving someone now. Okay? So your spirit wants to love them, and it opens up like a portal and brings love from the source and directs it towards them. And as it directs it towards them, it passes through your aura and it picks up the emotions that you are feeling. And so the love you send them is imbued with your emotions for them. How beautiful. I mean, that is beautiful. Okay? We'll talk about what happens when people receive love in the next video. But that is how the process, the cascade of love happens. And you feel great because you just set off all of these emotions. So it's kind of a win-win situation. They're going to receive your love. They're going to feel things. You feel great. You're enjoying noticing your relationship to them on the inside, and your spirit is opened up like a portal and is bringing love from the source. So you're not depleting your spirit of love. You're not depleting your heart center of love. You're loving them directly from the source. In that instance, you are channeling love. That's love. What about when you unconditionally love someone? Now, I've got to say, this is rare, okay? Think about it. To unconditionally love someone, not what I discussed earlier where you intentionally send unconditional love, but just to spontaneously, unconditionally love someone. This is almost never happens between, say, the love a mother has for a child is completely conditional. It's amazing love. It's one of the most powerful forms of love, but it is completely conditional. The love between two lovers, that's never likely to be unconditional. It's conditional. It's because of the nature of the relationship. The condition is the love you have for them. Okay? So, unconditionally loving does not have emotions. It comes purely from the mind. Now, in one of the articles I wrote about where compassion comes from, part of compassion comes from the mind. So when you are completely compassionate for someone and loving, you outpour unconditional love because there's no conditions on you loving them. It's pure compassion that is driving it. And what happens then is any unconditional love that you have in your heart center. So in order to be unconditionally loving, you do need to have unconditional love in you. And in video number 4, I think I talk about bringing unconditional love into yourself. So if you have unconditional love within you, and you're coming from a very neutral place, driven by compassion, then unconditional love pours out from the heart center to the other person. But this is very, very rare. And those people that can love unconditionally you'll find that they're extremely humble and very virtuous, and just they'll have love for strangers, but this is what it is to be human. This is our potential. Or to understand that there are people out there who are so compassionate that they can love a stranger unconditionally. And to me, that just seems like such a wonderful opportunity for all of us. And that's why I want to share it with you. And that is what it is to be a human. So there are 3 ways that others can receive our love. We can intentionally send them love, and that can be to them or to their spirit. We can intentionally send them unconditional love, and we can spontaneously love. So what a wonderful thing. So in the next video, we're going to talk about what happens when you receive love. If you haven't seen video number 1, now's a really good time to watch it before you go on to video number 3, and then do make sure you watch all 4 videos, because there's a full circle to the story of love, and each part is as important as the other. Okay? But for now, thank you very much for watching this video. Peace be with you, and I send you my love.